tuning in to our very, very exciting global book launch of A Woman's Guide to Business Domination. We are hearing from 18 amazing ladies from around the world who are just rocking their space in the world of business, and they've all come into this anthology that they've written a chapter each to share their learnings, wisdom, passion for you, so that it will actually just help you on your journey. I mean, what a love bomb is that? I am now going to introduce you to Dr. Talat Uppal, who is going to be sharing about her chapter, Breaking the Glass Ceiling for Women of Colour in Medical Leadership. I'm going to tell you a bit about Dr. Talat. She's an obstetrician and gynecologist who currently works at both the Northern Beaches and Hornsby Ku-ring-gai hospitals as a visiting medical officer. That was a bit challenging for me at this time of night. She's also the director of an amazing place called the Women's Health Road, where I actually go myself, and has set up an innovative, integrative, multidisciplinary model with a very strong patient-centered approach for all things women's health care. She's super interested in management of women with heavy menstrual bleeding and perimenopause, all those sorts of things, which we don't normally talk about it, but let's say, ladies, we just need to get it all out. We just need to start talking about things that happen with our bodies. Anyway, welcome to tonight's launch, Dr. Talat.
Thank you, Annie. It's such a privilege and an honor to be part of this program. And kudos to you for having such an exciting, initiative for women. I think this book is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, it sure is. It's now available for pre-order on kmdbooks.com. It'll be available. You can get it on Kindle now. It'll drop in, I think, on in about 5 days' time. So definitely do that. But over to you, Dr. Talat Uppal. You are an obstetrician. You've had an amazing career while being a mum as well, raising your family, and you've just been pushing biases your whole journey. You are so inspirational to me personally, but I know every other woman who gets to know you, we're all your fan club going, go Talat.
Thank you, Annie. That's so kind. I'm very humbled. Thank you.
How about you share about, why did you write about this chapter? Why is it important that we continue to break ceilings, and what have you tried to break and you're continuing to still push for to make the world more balanced and more equal?
Oh, Annie, what an excellent question. And so my personal journey is that I would go back all the way to when I was a child. I grew up in Africa, and as a medical student, I basically knew when I was in birthing unit that this is what I had been put on the purpose. This was my purpose, or this is what I had been put on the earth for, to look after and serve women and care for their health. So I think I'm very lucky, Annie, in that I had an alignment between what I was passionate about and where I work. And so it almost feels like, it does make it very fulfilling from that point of view. And I think it does make it easier to face barriers or to jump through hoops, because you then feel, look, you're doing it for your purpose or something that you really feel very passionately about. So I guess, Annie, the reason why I chose this topic is because honestly, my entire life, I have sat in rooms or in forums, and the more senior I got, this is actually getting even more, more pronounced, where very few people looked like me. Or I would sit in a room and I would think, who do I want to be? Actually, there's no one I'm seeing here that I think looks like me that I want to be. Do you know what I mean? And that is such a gap that until you're in those shoes, you actually don't even realize how lonely it can be from that perspective, that you might have this massive dream, but you actually don't see anybody accomplishing it before you. And so not that I'm there are obviously some very good role model women that I had, but there were very few. And, I was very lucky that there were some helping hands from some really amazing male mentors as well. So it's not really, sometimes obviously we do generalize a bit, but to be honest, I do think that as a woman of color, you do face a lot of systemic barriers, and they may not be acknowledged, they may not be deliberate, but they are there. And they're there because you're having that intersectionality between, all the disadvantage that women have, the disadvantage that, then you're bringing other layers into that same equation. And I would say I am actually optimistic that things are getting better. Even in my generation, I've seen quite a lot of change, not only in the community. Like, for example, Annie, you know how much women's health is a taboo. And nothing gives me more pleasure than like, for example, women bringing their adolescent daughters and saying, having open conversations with them about their menstrual problems, for example, about their pain, pelvic pain, for example, and saying to me that, look, they didn't have this privilege or this advantage or this communication with their mothers or their mother-in-laws or their aunties or whoever they saw as the, the matriarchs or the figures in their homes, but they're doing differently for their daughters. So similarly, not only in the patients that I serve, but also in the staff around me or in the community or in the departments that we work in, we are definitely feeling some changes, and the system is becoming less patriarchal. But having said that, Annie, there still have been so many glass ceilings to smash. And I think my reflections on going through various hoops that I've had to jump through too, because I think whenever you're establishing something innovative, there's not only the systemic barriers, it's also your own insecurity, obviously, because you're thinking, oh, why isn't everybody else setting up this model? Why do specialists typically work by themselves in women's health? And a lot of the multidisciplinary care is more in the subspecialties, like, for example, women's cancers or infertility spaces or in pain. There are not that many multidisciplinary spaces where you say, look, you want to be a generalist to obstetric and gynecologist, yet you see immense value in a physio, you see huge value in a midwife role, nursing practitioner, general practitioners, and having them all under one roof in an integrated model, Lenny, with using, sharing technology as a platform to uplift the system. So I think when I was setting it up, I certainly did have some moments where I thought, why doesn't everybody do it like this? And then when you come across a few barriers, you're like, oh, that's why they don't do it like this. That's why it's so much easier just to rent a room and just be by yourself and just have one secretary. You know what I mean? Like, but I was so glad I persevered, because honestly, Annie, like, I don't know, I think I've been very lucky and I've had the staff lottery as well. So I've surrounded myself with a tribe of women with very similar goals, very similar purpose. And I think a model of having a streamlined system, but at the back end, looking at how do we care for those that come behind us. That has been, Annie, some of the most fulfilling, moments for me, to be able to say, I'm going to do different. We're going to have people observing, or we're going to have students through our practice. We're going to nurture them. They're not going to have the same experiences that we had, at least to do our own 2 cents worth to change the trajectory. I think if young women see that women have achieved so much and they think, well, she's just like me, surely I can do that as well. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I genuinely had very little of that, almost, if I can say, growing up.
Me too. That's it. You wait. You because the people ahead of you, because there were so few, they were often very competitive as well. So they were often just pushing you out of the way. They're like going, "No, I worked really hard to get here, and I'm the only one." So I'm, like, it was very strange.
I'm the only sun that's going to shine in this compound.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah. And I think and as those listening in, there's a massive change, and you'll hear that from all of our speakers and from who are authors, are all about, no, we need to do it better. We need to to. One, if we haven't had role models, we need to be those role models, and for those coming after us, we need to give them a hand up and say, look and learn and find your own way as well. Not have a view of, because it's our way. We've heard other speakers today of how much the world's going to change in the next 10 or 20, 30 years. There's a future space that even us, you don't know. You can only do the best you can at a time, but it's more the attitude. And I tell you, those listening in, I am a patient, a frequenter of Dr. Talat's Women's Health Road, and it's just absolutely amazing. And I agree. She must be thinking, why wouldn't everybody do this? Because it is just so beautiful to come in and go, oh my gosh, it's a centre for women's health, right? So it doesn't matter what your needs are, you can have them fulfilled there, and the energy is beautiful and the staff are beautiful. But that represents, yourself and the leadership that you've had, and that you've attracted those people as well. So congratulations on you. And I think you are going to be a pioneer in other people who will, yes, you can just do your own thing. But as we've heard amongst many of the authors today, and also when you start reading this book, you'll see collaboration is so key, and when I as a patient went to Dr. Talat, and she sort of said, well, I can help you, but you might also want to be seen by this doctor or my daughter or this or that. Amazing, because not many people do that. They all go, oh yes, I can do that for you. And it might not be their expertise. So one, just incredible humility, and also just really surrendering to, if someone has better expertise, I want to refer that person to you. So absolutely amazing. So I just want to congratulate you. You just keep doing it.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you. There's no day that goes by every week. And I think maybe, Annie, within women's health, I've gravitated to looking after caring for women with heavy bleeding, or with, and so that's another space where you think, oh my goodness, there's a before and after version of the person you're caring for. And sometimes they're sitting in front of me with very low iron, with the nastiness of the menstrual hygiene issues, with the, anxiety around when they're going to flood, and the pressure from sometimes an abnormal uterus that might have fibroids, or might have, endometriosis, or any other cause. And it's just so fulfilling, Annie, to see the before and after version, and thinking, thank goodness this is a problem with so many solutions. And I do often wonder, Annie, why women put up with symptoms like that for sometimes quite long, or they go to different clinicians, and many are helpful, but some actually are not as proactive as they should be. So that's another thing that I'm hoping that we would champion, our team would continue to champion, and say, please don't put up with this misery. There's a lot of help out there. See your general practitioner. There's so many of us working in this space to serve and look after you. Please reach out. But back to the actual issue today.
Before and after picture, by the way. So don't normalize what is not normal. I think that's
exactly 100%.
We are soldiers, like serious soldiers.
Oh my gosh, Annie, every single day it's a situation where I think she's caring for her children, the teenage children are giving grief, or that she's caring for her elderly parents, or the job has all these 50 demands. Everything else, this woman is a champion caring for all of this. And then I ask, but who's looking after you? Or what about your medical needs? Or you're so depleted? Or at the end of this project, but you're not going to be your personal best until you're actually, imagine a car that's going around on empty. That's what you are.
So burning fast. Yes, burning fast.
So important to break those cycles and say, look, stop, let's help you get to a better place. Yeah.
So you're doing that, obviously for yourself, you've evolved into a beautiful place. You now have your own business, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. You're also still out there though in different communities. You're part of your college, your professional college, your hospital, which is still going to be very male dominated. You're still out there pushing, right? So it's not as if those listening in go, oh yeah, well, she didn't like where she was, so she set up her own center and now she collaborates with a few women, which is like, that's not exactly what it is, but it's she's actually like, no way, she's running that while setting up this incredible innovative practice, while popping into different hospitals, trying to, speaking, lecturing, assessing students who are still going up, becoming obstetricians, gynecologists. And a lot of that is still very male dominated, correct?
Yes, and it's still, the culture is changing though. It is sort of like leveling more, but the leadership positions, I think, still are relatively, there's still an imbalance there.
Yeah.
And what happens is that sometimes I think that that change is going to come through the pipeline effect, but then at times we're very impatient because that does take time.
Take time.
You want things to be more balanced in your own circumstances, and I think, well, we still keep chipping at it, away at it. And what I have learned, Annie, is that there's some battles that you can fight and should fight, and there's some that at that time maybe it's better to park. And sometimes, obviously, when you try a lot of innovative strategies, you do fall forward sometimes, and that's okay as well. So I think what I've learned is that, find your own tribe, always have that energy around you, surrounded by people. Like when I was setting up my practice, to be honest, a number of people that had their hands on my back were interstate. There were successful women who were leveraging me from much across the geographical boundaries. Just give me 1 minute. I'll close the door. Sorry. Apologies. I think my husband's on a conference call, but yeah, sorry, just 1 minute. Apologies. Sorry about that, Annie. Apologies. Yeah, so I think it's so important to be surrounded by like-minded women who truly have your back, and that I felt was a very comforting space to be. And my other advice would be, like you said earlier, make your own door. So sometimes we try to knock on doors, we try to open them, and it's so good to try. But at times, some doors don't open, and maybe they're not our door. And then you look back and you think, oh my gosh, the door I ended up with was so much better. Thank goodness I made my own door. So I think we've started this hashtag in our practice, make your own door, because I think it's hard to generalize, but there are situations where just pining for a particular thing is not that helpful. You only have, and I think the more I'm blossoming, the more I'm realizing that you have finite resources, Annie. You have finite time, you have finite energy, you have finite reserve, and you have talent. So if you do believe in yourself and this, you can actually use that productively by channeling that energy into where you're getting the most returns. And that's what I have realized slowly. So, you learn as you go along. Exactly. And like I said, sometimes you fall forward. Not every project you put energy into it, gives you that return that you were hoping for. But overall, we've been so embraced by the community. We've become so, as you know, we've become so busy, and it's just been fun as well. That's what I wasn't expecting, that running a business is going to be so much fun. Like, when I didn't have my own medical center, I used to think, oh my God, I bet it's so onerous. I bet it's so this, that. And yes, of course, I'm not trivializing the work that goes into organizing it, but I think it's been so much fun. And again, I would give the credit to our team, the contractors, the staff. They're just phenomenal, Annie. And sometimes I pinch myself and I think, oh my God, I'm surrounded by these amazing women. Like, how did I wake up like this? I'm so lucky.
You're blessed and they're blessed. That is the purpose. But I think it's because it's your joy. And a lot of the sharing from women who've written these chapters is because you're actually just living out your purpose, right? And so going back to that little girl who knew she wanted to just help people and help women with their healthcare, and then became that obstetrician who now has a center, it's just because you're in your joy. You're in your genius zone. You're highly qualified. You just love it. And so therefore you can enjoy, the actual practice for yourself and having a successful business, but also the effect that's happening now you see on your staff, that they're happy working with you, that, you know, that other people would want to work with you. And so it just dominoes. I also love, just to finish up, that you really are very proactive in being engaged in, you know, social media, medical reviews and reports, and, you know, things coming out in the news, and really championing that role as, you know, as an expert in your field, and also collaborating with other women such as medical mums and bits and pieces, because there is power in numbers, right? There's power
There
in
is, Annie. There is. And I think that whole concept of, if I might put it bluntly, the boys' club, which we sometimes actually truly are up against. And that has been like leveraged by women actually caring for each other in forums like that. And social media honestly has connected us in ways beyond what we could have ever imagined. And I think that's where the difference now is, that if you do have something special, even if XYZ may not be that impressed, you can actually take that idea global, because you're not really that dependent on only one person or one, you know what I mean? Like, social media has just liberated us. And although obviously it comes with some of its own challenges, but overall I would agree with you, Annie, that has served us really well. And also, Annie, like in spaces like migrant health, like where we want to, really capture certain or get certain messages across, or help with community awareness. I love that opportunity to be able to connect, as we're doing right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I just think it's, you've shown that the principle works, right? I've watched it in action. I definitely implement those same principles, that, together we are more, that we
Yes.
respect each other, we collaborate together, we, refer people to each other. There's a
Yes.
whole network, and this network isn't just, Talat and I, being in the same area. This is a global network. You'll have other authors in this book, and those people in
Yes.
my tribe, and other beautiful tribes around the world, who are just all going, it doesn't matter where you are, if you're in a comment, if you're wanting that support, you're wanting some guidance, that's right, using social media and technology, it actually isn't that hard. And even for busy people, we all choose where to spend our 24 hours, but there are connections, there are opportunities within, the tribes, whether it's
100%
medical
agree.
mums, whether
Yep.
it's in my business, whether it's in others, it's actually just finding your group, right?
Exactly. And do it as an authentic, organic, fun exercise. Like, I had somebody, Annie, the other day, is trying to set up practice and was saying, oh, now I have to get into this, now I have to get into that. And I was thinking, oh, you know what? Actually, it comes very authentically as well. You don't have to really go and do a post because you're trying to get patients. It actually can be very authentic if you embrace it like that.
Yeah.
And thank you for the advocacy that you do. I found it so helpful, so uplifting for the women that we care for, whenever you pop into the practice and you give so generously of your wisdom and your time, and you share your tips. Even this week, I was so impressed with all the information that you shared with, for example, a person that we were mentoring. And that's really, we're all in it together.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, and we're definitely all in it together. And I thank you for giving up your time today. Thank you so much for writing your beautiful chapter. Everyone, grab a copy of this. It's on KMD Books. It's also on the QR code on the screen. Dr. Talat Uppal has written "Breaking the Glass Ceiling for Women of Colour in Medical Leadership." We definitely need to be reading this, aware of challenges that still present themselves. And I think she's been very gracious. We need to celebrate women like Dr. Talat, who are just still pushing, and just being present. And it takes time and energy to still make sure that you are in those spaces, and people are aware of it. So it's just, positioning yourself that topic does not get, dismissed. It's always at the forefront. And congratulations on all of the gains that you have.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very, very grateful for the opportunity. And guys, it's a good Christmas present. Give it to all, your family, your friends, especially young women and men, and share the word.